I saw the fat fall off and I would just stare at myself in the mirror and be like, whoa, bro, you look great. I mean, I can't believe the fat fell off that soon. It's honestly kind of crazy how fast it happened. I couldn't even believe it. Hi guys, in today's video, we're gonna be going over what you should be eating to lose fat. The reason you need to know what to eat in order to lose fat is because you want to make this as easy of a process as possible. You don't want to be fighting yourself in order to see the progress that you need to make. You want to make this an easy process and you want to just see the results, right? You want to be shredded. You want to see your abs and you want to look good. So in order to do this, you should really know what to eat and what's going to help you get there the fastest. So let's talk about what you shouldn't be doing. Number one, stay away from high calorie foods. Stay away from the ice cream, stay away from the cookies, and stay away from foods that have a lot of sauces and sugar in them. The reason being is because when you eat these foods, it's gonna make it harder for you to stay in a calorie deficit, especially if you're eating these foods multiple times per day, right? You're eating cookies in the morning, you're eating Rice Krispie treats in the afternoon. Those are calories that are gonna add up and make it harder for you to be in a calorie deficit. If you wanna be in a calorie deficit, you're gonna wanna stay away from foods like that because you're not gonna have the freedom to eat as many foods throughout the day. And if you get hungry aside from those, the more food you consume, the more likely it is that you're gonna be in a calorie surplus and you're gonna be eating more foods than you need in order to utilize the fat and lose the body fat. So you gotta stay away from the high calorie foods. Imagine somebody who was trying to lose weight and you're seeing them constantly eat McDonald's or you're seeing them constantly eat Rice Krispie treats or cookies or ice cream. You're just gonna sit there and be like, how are you gonna lose the fat? And that's what I would think too, is how are you gonna be able to lose the body fat if you're constantly eating these foods that are so many calories, right? You're not gonna be able to see the results. You're not gonna be able to use body fat. You're just gonna store extra body fat because you're just so high in calories. Number two, cut out the excess snacking. I know everybody likes snacks. Everybody needs a snack every once in a while. I mean, you could be working a long day, doing work, whatever it could be, or even at school, and you need something to pick you up, you need a little bit of energy. Stay away from the high calorie snacks. And you know what I'm talking about. You go to the grocery store, you see the super sweets or the candy. Yeah, you can have those every once in a while or make sure that they fit into your diet, but you don't want to be eating those all the time and you don't want to be eating them excessively, right? Yeah, you can have one or two, but if you're trying to lose body fat, those high calorie snacks and the excessive snacking multiple times a day is just going to put you at a disadvantage. You're never going to see the fat loss you want to see if you're constantly eating snacks throughout the day on top of meals, right? Now, if you want to just have snacks throughout the day and never really eat a big meal, that's possible too, but a lot of the foods that people tend to eat when they're snacking tend to be higher calories, right? So if you can find a low calorie option, it's gonna be your best bet to include that with some of the meals you might be having throughout the day. You might be having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then maybe you have one snack throughout the day that keeps your energy levels high so that you're not crashing at work or school. But you wanna stay away from excessively snacking. And I'm talking snacking snacking 3-4 times a day, grabbing whatever you can find in the break room or going to the store and getting all these snacks, because guess what? Those calories are gonna add up. You're gonna include those calories into the amount of calories that you eat for a day, and you're gonna see that that's the reason that you're not in a calorie deficit. That's the reason why you're not able to see the fat come off, is because you're eating all these snacks and it's adding up, and it's gonna be too much for your body to be in a calorie deficit. Another thing you need to do is be careful with the sauces and sugars. I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but those are calories too. Do not make the mistake of thinking Chick-fil-A sauce is not extra calories, or thinking that little bit of ranch or honey mustard is not calories that you can count towards your calorie deficit or however many calories you're supposed to be eating a day. Those count too. And if you overdo it and you have too much of the sauces, that can be an extra 500, 600 calories, almost the equivalent of a big snack or even a meal, right? So you don't want to be forgetting about these sauces and sugars that you might be adding into your drinks or might be in some of the drinks that you're having, you don't want to neglect those. You want to count those as part of your calorie deficit, because those are also going to affect your body, right? You're going to affect how much you're eating overall and whether you see a calorie deficit or not from the foods that you're eating. So be on the lookout for how much sugar and how many calories are in some of these sauces that you might be eating with your meals, because those will creep up, and next thing you know, you're not going to be seeing you're not going to be in the calorie range that you want to be in order to lose fat. So let's talk about what you should do and what you should be eating in order to see fat loss. I want you to focus on foods that will keep you full and are low calorie. Focusing on foods such as fruits, vegetables, and even protein sources and carbs that are lower in calorie are going to be better for you to eat in order to see fat loss. And you might be asking yourself why. The reason is because they're not going to have the effect, and they're not going to put you in a position where you're super high calorie unless you are eating too much of them, right? When you have lower calorie foods and you're eating throughout the day, it makes it easier to be in a calorie deficit. You're going to see that the amount of food that you've eaten for the day is going to be closer to the amount that you need to eat in order to see fat loss, right? You want to see that 500 calorie deficit, or maybe 600 calorie deficit, or 700 calorie deficit. You can't just do that all from exercise. It's not all going to come from exercise. It's going to come from you not eating as much calories as you're used to. Now, if you're not really used to tracking your calories, you can understand this by choosing foods that have a higher water content, or are less calories in bulk. So when you're in a calorie deficit and you're not eating as much and you're not eating as frequently, you can see the fat starting to come off. Your body's going to start to utilize the fat as an energy source. And that's why I heavily push for foods that are low calorie to be included into your diet. Things such as simple grains, fruits, vegetables, and you can even add salads into there. But remember, be careful of the sauces, because those can add up too. So that's one tip on what you should eat in order to start losing fat. Obviously, like I said earlier, limiting your snacking. Now, snacking on low calorie food such as fruit is always a great idea, right? Because you can eat so much fruit and still feel full from the snacking, or feel full from including it into your diet, to where you're going to feel full on a lot less calories, and you're not going to have to worry about being in a huge calorie surplus. You're not going to be as high in calories for the day if you're snacking on fruits and you're including whole foods that are low calorie into your diet. It's going to be a lot easier and a lot more manageable. And then last would be, you need to be in a calorie deficit by making sure that you eat foods that are low calorie. I know I sound like a broken record, but being in a calorie deficit from these foods are going to put you in a position to where you're going to see the fat loss. You're going to be able to utilize fat loss for your body, and making sure that the foods that you're eating are not excessively high in calories, right? Because in order for you to see the fat loss, you have to be in a calorie deficit. And in order to make the calorie deficit as easy as possible, you're going to want to choose foods that are whole foods and that are low calorie. You want to make it as easy on yourself. You don't want to be sitting there hungry. Imagine Tim tries to go on a diet, but he's eating these 700 calorie snacks every day, and he's like, oh, I only have 2,100 calories, and he snacks 3 times a day, and that's all he can eat. That's not going to be enjoyable for most people. It's not going to be enjoyable at all, period. Because guess what? He's not eating a big meal. He's not eating lunch. He's not eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And only snacking is going to be kind of terrible. If we use a different example and we say Jane, but Jane has 3 big meals A lot of her foods are chicken, rice, and broccoli, or she has eggs and she has another protein source and she has fruit in the morning. She's gonna be a lot more likely to eat all those foods. And yeah, she's gonna be fuller throughout the day, so she's gonna do less snacking. And she's also going to be able to hit her calorie goals a lot easier because those are foods that are whole foods that will keep you more full and also aren't gonna be as high in calorie. Now, I wanna preface this by saying it is important to take in how much you will be eating because that does play a role into the amount of calories that you're eating too, right? If you eat 3 bowls of rice during the day, that's a lot of calories too. I'm not saying that whole foods can't be a lot of calories. Obviously, you're going to have to portion it out and make sure that the foods that you're eating do fit into that calorie restriction. But what I am saying is that though eating a lot of rice is going to be better than eating a lot of cookies. Like cookies, ice cream, Rice Krispie treats, a lot of those candy, a lot of those foods, if you eat a lot of them, that's a lot of calories. So keep that in mind. If you need ideas of foods that are low calories, I go over this in my course. It's the top link in my bio. Check it out if you need any help, and I hope this helps. See you later, guys.